Hello world, I'm Anupam. Today I want to talk about how to use Pfsense to essentially double your internet bandwidth with VPN protection. I use private internet access. They're a great VPN provider. They come in at around $10 a month for 10 simultaneous devices. You can get it cheaper if you bundle for yearly subscriptions. This tutorial might be useful for you if you have multiple broadband uplinks or if you have free internet hotspots near you that you want to combine together for faster speeds. For security and privacy, I want my multi-WAN connections to be protected by PIA VPN. In the title of this video, double your internet speed is in quotes because you aren't exactly combining your uplinks into one big pipe, but you're balancing your packet traffic between different uplinks so that you can get more data throughput through multiple smaller pipes. For example, if you have two downloads happening at the same time, Pfsense will balance each download on its own uplink until the connections are fully saturated. However, if you have a single download happening, most online services will not be able to take advantage of your load balancing setup, as Pfsense will send your traffic down a single uplink. This setup is great if you have multiple users or if you're using peer-to-peer traffic with multiple files downloading at the same time. Load balancing also provides some fault tolerance, so if one of your uplinks in the multi-WAN goes down, traffic will automatically be routed to the uplinks that still have a live connection. It's also not advised to try to combine a very fast uplink with a slower one. This will overall result in disappointing results. It's also best to load balance amongst similar speed uplinks. So what is Pfsense? Pfsense is a free open source router that you can install on bare metal systems or in virtual machines. It's community supported, very robust, powerful, and configurable. Pfsense supports OpenVPN clients, so that's how we will connect to PIA. So with the way VPNs work, you cannot load balance a single VPN connection on a multi-WAN setup. VPNs are tunnels that cannot be split amongst multiple uplinks. So you're going to need a VPN connection on each individual uplink that you're planning to protect and utilize. From there, we will load balance all our traffic through the VPN connections. Unfortunately, that means you will be using up 2 devices on your VPN provider's account for 2 uplinks. Similarly, for 5 uplinks, you'll use up 5 devices on your account. You also cannot connect to the same exact VPN server running on the same OpenVPN subnet as your other VPN uplinks. The closest PIA data center to me is in Chicago, and they have around 900 plus servers running in different TCP and UDP configurations. So there's definitely plenty to pick from. We will be using my home lab, which runs VMware ESXi. I'll show you how to install and configure Pfsense as well as how I have my virtual connections set up. For the demo, I have 2 Wi-Fi uplinks that are around 23 to 27 megabits per second individually. At the end of the tutorial, we should have a speed test result around 45 to 50 megabits per second while also being VPN protected. Keep in mind that my uplinks are based off Wi-Fi routers, so there will be some extra latency and maybe some speed drops, but overall you should see a good gain in performance. Okay, so this is my ESXi host virtual switch configuration panel. So I have a physical adapter on the back of the host plugged into my network, and then it comes in, and then we have 2 VLANs here, XFi1 and then XFi2, VLAN 150 and then VLAN 201. These are both going to be my each individual uplinks. They just are Wi-Fi routers on the other end elsewhere on my network. Both of them are connected to different access points, so each one is getting, as I said before, around like 25-30 megabits. And then I also have a LAN port group for connecting our Windows box over to the Pfsense box, and that will allow us to test the load balancer and get out to the internet. Alright, so let's get some baseline numbers on no VPN protection, on each uplink. So this is X51, my first uplink. Speed test. It's getting around 28, 29, almost 30. And then the upload's only like 5 or 6. But, so if I do a what is my IP, that's a Comcast residential IP. And then now I'm going to switch it over to X52. What is my IP? It's also a Comcast residential connection. The last couple digits are different, but I'm not going to show you guys that. But here's another speed test on the secondary X5 VLAN. .26, 27 maybe. And then upload speed is also like 4, 5, 6-ish. So those are some baseline numbers for my two VLANs. So from here, I'm going to show you how to install Pfsense and get going with the load balancing and VPN setup. Alright, first what you're going to want to do is go to pfsense.org and go to the Downloads tab and get yourself the latest ISO file for Pfsense. And then you're going to want to go to your ESXi, if that's what you're using, ESXi or another hypervisor or a bare metal installation using USB. Burn it to USB or upload it to your hypervisor. And then I'm going to create a new virtual machine. Balancer demo. And then this is the OS family's FreeBSD. That's what Pfsense is based off of. FreeBSD 64-bit. And then Pfsense doesn't really need too many resources, but I like to give it more than it needs. And then it doesn't need that much hard disk space either. 2 gigs should be enough. And then for the network configuration, you want to give it initially 2 network cards. One for your first WAN, and then add another one for your LAN. And then for the CD drive, you want to change it and then point it at your ISO file. Connect. Alright, once your virtual machine is created, you can go and start it. Connect the console. Alright, once it's booted up, you want to accept their agreement. Install Pfsense. Default key map. Auto disk setup. Once the installation is finished, say no, you don't want to make any modifications. And then reboot. Alright, after it reboots, after installing, we can see that the WAN interface and the LAN interface were automatically selected and configured. So the WAN has a subnet 200 address, That's coming from the VLAN 1, X-Fi 1, and then LAN was created by Pfsense itself on the 1 subnet. I actually want to change to the 12199. So from here, let's go to the Windows box, and then we can connect to the Pfsense box. Alright, so at the Windows box, in command prompt, if you're in an IP config, you can see that the subnet is the .1 address. So we can go over to that address and then continue with the prompts. The default login is admin and Pfsense for the password. Next. Next. You can set your primary DNS server. I prefer Google DNS, so that's what I'm going to pick. And yes, override DNS. That's fine. So at the bottom of this, for me, I'm going to untick these two boxes. I'm using local NAT and local subnets for my VLANs, so if these are ticked, you're probably going to have some issues with the Pfsense firewall trying to block your VLANs. So make sure to untick these if you're using local subnets. The rest of it looks okay. Next. So I want to change this to 199. That's good. Next. And then it asks you to change the default password, so give it a different password. Next. And then we can reboot Pfsense, and I'll come back once it reboots. So we're booted into the Pfsense firewall now, and as you can see, we only have the two interfaces that we set up initially, which was WAN and LAN. We have to set up WAN 2 for our second VLAN. So I'm going to bring over the configuration, and I'm going to add network adapter, and then I'm going to add X-Fi 2. Okay, and then I'm pretty sure Pfsense doesn't like adding devices on the fly, so we'll probably have to reboot it. Yeah, so it didn't detect it, so I'm going to reboot the system. Okay, so after rebooting Pfsense and reloading the web interface with the new IP address, you want to go to Interfaces, Assignments, and then our WAN 2 interface is here now. Click Add, then click on Opt 1, and Enable Interface, then change the description to WAN 2, and then under IP4 configuration, change it to DHCP so it can get an IP address from X-Fi 2. Save. Apply. After the settings applied, go back home, and you should see that we have 2 WAN interfaces and then 1 LAN interface. So the 200 address is from X-Fi 1, and then the 254 address is from X-Fi 2. Okay, now we're ready to configure the VPNs. So go to your VPN provider, or if you're following along, you can make an account at Private Internet Access, then go to My Account. From there you can go to Downloads, and then scroll down to the OpenVPN generator. Click the link, and then select Linux. And scroll down, and then you can pick what server you want. I want US Chicago. And then you have some options here, so you can pick UDP or TCP. I'm going to pick UDP, and then I want the recommended one. And then you want to make sure you tick Use IP, then click Generate. Save it. So after you download your first file, you're going to have to download another one of the same configuration for your second uplink. You have to do this because each OVPN file comes with a different certificate, and you need a unique certificate per connection that you're using. So go ahead and generate another one, and save it as the second. So after you have both files downloaded, open them in a text editor like Notepad++, and then if you toggle between them, you can see that the IP addresses of each file are different, and they're pointing at different servers, but the port numbers are the same, and you have to make sure that each connection that you have has a unique IP address for each server you're connecting to. So the PIA server will generate a different IP address every couple minutes. So if you download the file and you get 2 files with the same IP address, try after a couple minutes to get a unique IP address that you don't already have so that your router doesn't get confused. After you get 2 files with 2 different IP addresses, you can go to the Pfsense box, and then you're going to want to go to System and Certificate Manager, and then you want to add a new CA. Click Add, and then we can call this PIA1, and then you want to import an existing certificate, and then in your OVPN file at the bottom, there's going to be a tag CA, and you want to copy from begin certificate to end certificate. Copy, and then put it in certificate data. Save. And then you want to do another one. You want to call it PIA2, and then import an existing certificate. Toggle to the other file. Copy the certificate and paste it. Save. Okay, after you have your certificate set up and imported, you want to go to VPN, open VPN, and then you want to go to clients, and then we want to add a client. And PIA has a great guide on how to use Pfsense with their OpenVPN servers. I'm going to go copy the custom entries while I'm here. Paste the options. So these first settings are fine. You want to make the local port 0 so that Pfsense can randomize the port, because we're going to be using 2 OpenVPN clients using the same port, and they can't bind to the same port, so we have to be able to randomize it so that Pfsense can utilize both OpenVPN connections. From the OVPN file, you want to copy the IP address, the port number, as well as your username and password, which will be in your emails. Then you want to click the disable use a TLS key, peer certificate authority PIA1, and then in your configuration file it should say what encryption algorithm it's going to be using. We have AES 128 CBC, and that's what's selected. You can leave the NCP settings alone. And then our file has SHA-1, so we're going to change this to SHA-1. And you can leave this middle section for the most part. There's no compression. Make sure you check these off. Don't pull routes, and don't add or remove routes. That's very important. Make sure you do that. And then gateway creation, IPv4 only, and save. And you want to basically do the same thing for the second interface, but make sure you change the interface from WAN to WAN 2. And then in our file, switch over to the second file, copy that IP address and the second port, Again, make sure local port is set to 0. You can call this PIA2. Username and password. Disable use a TLS key. PIA2. CBC 128. Yes. Leave the NCP alone. SHA-1. Don't pull routes. Don't add or remove routes. And then we need the custom options. IPv4 only. Save. And then we can go back, and I forgot to add description PIA1. Save. And then after that, you can click this little graph button, and it will show the status of the OpenVPN servers or clients. And both of them are connected with virtual addresses. Okay, after you have your OpenVPN client set up and running with virtual IP addresses, you want to go to Interfaces, Assignments, and then you're going to see that there are new options for interfaces for both PIA1 and PIA2. Click PIA1, Add, click Op2. We can call this VPN1 underscore INT. Enable the interface, save, apply. Then go back to assignments and do the same for PIA2. Enable, and then VPN2 INT, save, apply. Alright, once you have your interfaces set up with proper names, you can then go to diagnostics and ping. And then from here we can ping a server to test our VPN connections. So I'm going to ping the Google DNS server, and then you want to pick your interface name for PIA1 or VPN1. Ping. And we have 3 successful pings. And then let's test VPN2 or PIA2. Ping. And then we also have 3 successful pings for that one as well. Once you've verified that your VPNs can ping to Google DNS, then you can go and enable routing. So you can go to Firewall, NAT, Outbound, and then you want to change the mode from automatic to manual, save, and apply. So by default, Pfsense will make 6 mappings on the WAN interface. We added the WAN 2 interface as well, which we don't need mappings for, so you can just go ahead and delete all WAN 2 mappings. Apply. And then for each mapping, you need to create 2 more mappings for each VPN interface that you're using. So I'm going to start with this first one. Click the clone button here, clone. Then change the interface to VPN1. And then the rest of this can stay the same. Save, apply. And then do the same thing again. But instead of VPN1, you want to do VPN2. Apply. Then you want to do the same thing for the rest of it. Okay, so after all of that work, now I have mappings for both VPN interfaces in the outbound NAT table. Make sure you apply changes. After you have your outbound NAT table properly set up, you can then go to System, Routing, and then Gateway Groups. And then make a new gateway group. And then we can call this VPN Load Balance. And then on VPN 1, we can set this to Tier 1. And then VPN 2, Tier 1. So this means that traffic will be split evenly amongst these two interfaces. If you wanted perhaps a load failover, then let's say like VPN 1 fails, you can set it up so that Tier 2, VPN 2 will take over if VPN 1 fails. But we want load balancing, so you want to set them at the same tier level. And then for the trigger level, we want it to be packet loss or high latency. So when one of these interfaces experiences high packet loss or high latency, it will automatically fail over to the other one, and all the other times where they're both okay, it'll split the packets evenly. So click Save, apply changes. Next, you want to go to Routing, and then on VPN 1 here, you want to click Edit, and then you want to set your monitor IP to one of Google DNS IPs, and then set that, save. Then do similar for VPN 2, but make sure that you set a different IP. Pfsense doesn't allow you to use the same IP on multiple gateways. So make sure you set a different one and apply changes. Once you have your gateway groups and monitor IP set up, you can go and do the final step. You can go to Firewall, Rules, then you want to go to LAN, and then you can delete the IPv6 configuration here because we're not using that. Okay, and then under IPv4 you want to edit it, and then scroll down to Advanced Options, then scroll down to Gateway, and then select the gateway group we just created, VPN Load Balance. Select, save, apply changes. Now you can reboot the Pfsense box. Once the Pfsense box has rebooted, you can log back in. And then once you log in, go to System, Advanced, and then Miscellaneous. Then you want to scroll down to Gateway Monitoring, and then make sure you tick Do Not Create Rules when Gateway is down. This will keep the VPN gateways locked in so that no traffic can bypass the VPN for security reasons. So your ISP can't detect whatever you're doing, or whatever traffic that you're trying to send through your VPN doesn't leak out without being protected. So this needs to be checked if you want to make sure that your traffic isn't leaking out. Click Save. Then you can go back home. And then to ensure that the gateway group is functioning, you can go to System, Routing, and then go to the gateway group, and then edit it, and then just save it again. That, and then apply changes. That will make sure that the gateway group is engaged on the firewall rules. And now we get to test it. So let's run a speed test. As you can see, we're getting more than 25 as last time. I'm getting closer to 40, 45 as I'm using Wi-Fi routers once again, so there might be a little speed loss. Our upload has doubled to 11 instead of 5. Let's run another one. There we go, almost 50, 51. And then I'll run a, what is my IP? And as you can see, it is different from the Comcast address that we had at the beginning. I hope you guys found this useful. Let me know of any future videos that you guys might want to see, like VLANs or custom firmware on a router. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.